Yo traigo para ti algo excitante, mi jarabe te levanta de la tumba. Es un jaleo pa' que siempre estés adelante, un poquito de melaza, son y rumba. Es un pasito que te voy a enseñar, un menejito que sé que te gustará. Y cuando aprendas a bailarlo con sabor, te aseguro que este ritmo gozarás.
Primeramente quiero decir buenos días, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Ok, ¿y cómo te llamas?
Me llamo Alexandra Reyes y soy una estudiante aquí en la Universidad de Wake Forest.
Oh, cool.
Mi segundo año.
All right, and you're a sophomore here, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess one of my first questions would be like, how does it feel to be a student at Wake Forest? Oh, feel being Afro-Latina on Wake Forest campus.
Yeah, so back home in New Jersey, I never really realized I identified myself as Afro-Latina until I got here. And I was really forced to pick an identity between being either black or, I guess whenever people look at me, they're like, oh, what is she, you know? And so it was really when I got here to Winston-Salem that I really questioned my identity and questioned my African descent ancestry.
When we talk about your Latina identity, what comes to mind? And how do you think that impacts you as a person and your navigation on this campus at Wake Forest?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I kind of just like question my own Latina identity, just because like as a person, as a biracial person, as a multi-ethnic person, I just feel like I'm not like Latina enough to be considered a Latina. Just because I guess my Latina heritage comes from my grandmother on my dad's side, although my mom is Filipino, so there's like some people consider that to be Latina as well. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's not knowing if I'm actually Latina.
Hi, what's your name?
Adriana.
So Adriana, what year are you at Wake Forest?
I'm a junior.
And how do you identify?
As Latina.
Cool. And what is your experience here as a Latina student at Wake Forest?
Well, as an international Latino student, I have had issues with the American Latinos because sometimes they don't understand our backgrounds and our realities, and they're very, very different from the national Latinos. So that's kind of what I've experienced here at Wake.
Or made you feel forced to choose one or the other? Like you're either black or you're Latina?
Yeah, definitely. Especially when I hang out with certain people. Like if I hang out with like Hispanic people on campus, sometimes I feel like I'm not Hispanic enough. And if I hang out with black people on campus, I feel like I'm not black enough. So it's never like, I guess, a sense of inclusion.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there's a community for you here at Wake Forest?
No, I don't think so. Just because, well, I guess to talk about my personal experience this past weekend, I went to Elon University, right? And there I was able to meet like 4 to 5 different girls, and there I felt like really at home. Because I was able to, I guess, share time with people that were more like me, or from the same neighborhood back home in New York and New Jersey. And we have the same ancestry, so it was nice to really, here on campus, because like, there's no one like that here that I can relate to.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like there's a Latino community here on campus?
There is, yeah, like especially people who are part of OLAS and stuff. I'm not really part of OLAS so much, because I feel like a lot of the international students dominate the club. Their culture, their culture is different from what I'm used to back home at least.
Do you think there exists a Latino experience here at Wake Forest?
Well, I definitely do think so, but I think that it just depends on where you're from and what your background is. So like international Latinos hang out with each other and they have their own experiences, and I think even among the American Latinos, different groups form depending too on social class and their backgrounds and even where they're from. I think that it just really depends on who you are, what your background is.
In my freshman year, this one girl was like, oh, you speak Spanish? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh, you must know my Mexican friend from Raleigh. I was like, I'm from Jersey and I'm Dominican. Like,
You must know my Mexican friend from Raleigh.
I think Wake Forest should be more aware, and as a community, of what the different realities and what the different issues are with Latinos in general, and just start to realize that you can't just group people because there are really large social class divides, and different people group themselves in different ways, and I think that should be taken into consideration.
Your identity is who you are inside, but then it's also shaped by like culture and society.
Do you feel like the Latino community as a whole on campus has embraced you?
No, you know, I'd say maybe certain people have. That's only because I've gotten to know them closely, like in different, like through different events and different occasions. But like, I think overall, the community really does. And I remember I went to this one event my freshman year, to Bryn's, and so I was like really excited to my first LS event. And kind of like I mentioned before, I felt marginalized on my own like Latino event, and that feels it's like really sad to hear, you know. But they all, like for one, did not even know that I spoke Spanish. They looked at me like, what is she? And two, it was just a lot of like exclusion when I went there. I didn't really feel included at all. So.